All right. Well, what I figured I would do for you guys tonight, I'm going to be running a tournament in Hood River at the end of January. And I was just going to basically show you all how I go through and set up a tournament at the beginning. And then I'll show you what I actually do during the tournament to keep the thing moving so I can get home at a sensible hour. I'm on Track Wrestling's main page here right now. And what I need to do is I need to register to run a tournament. And I've got my account. If you don't have a Track Wrestling account, you're going to have to create one to do this. And at this stage, I'm just going to be typing in my event information. And of course, I don't know Hood River High School's address off the top of my head, so I'll have to look that up real fast. But I'll just show you how this goes from here. Just putting in the dates here. And thank goodness for Google. There we go. There's the address. If you put the address in, when people link on it, it'll actually give them a map to the facility. Whoops. And especially it'll work better if I put it in the right place. Okay, my age level for this tournament is high school. It's a folk style tournament. Individual tournament, because these aren't dual meets. If you're doing a dual meet tournament, you would want to select dual tournament here, but this is an individual tournament. I'm going to be using brackets. Predefined weight classes for all high school tournament. I'll explain about the electronic staging in a little bit, but I need to tell it that I'm going to do that right now here. I'm going to allow the coaches to enter their own guys, and again, I'll show you how to set that up as well. Yeah, you can. And if I think about it for a minute, I'll remember how. Yeah, you can have different brackets for different weight classes, yes. I'm going to assign each team a password and use a predefined format. This is all my info. Local. None of this applies. And the governing body are our friends at the OSAA. And all we have in Oregon right now is this high school boys. The varsity tournament. New event. And if there's any information you want to put here, like the weigh-in times or some such, you can put that here. And then Track Wrestling wants you to say, yeah, I promise I'll really pay for this. And now we wait a second, and request has been approved. Somewhere in my mailbox here is a mail from Track Wrestling saying that the tournament is in. And I'm not going to go there because it'll actually tell you what my password is. So I'm just going to skip straight to the good bit here and manage that tournament that I just made. And hopefully it's there. Yep, there it is right there. And now I have this fresh, brand new tournament with absolutely not a thing in here. And the important thing that I like to go over with folks is there's this to-do list here. And it's actually pretty good once you figure out, I mean, the order isn't always the greatest, and eventually at some point when I have a free 10 minutes in my life, I'll make my own to share with people. But First thing I'll go over here is reviewing and editing the settings. And anytime you click on any of these, by the way, Track, being helpful as it is, will give you a video to watch. I'm not going to click on it because I've seen the videos and they're fine. But the important thing here, it says to click Settings in the left menu. So left menu and Settings. Here's all the junk I just typed in. I could upload a logo if I was so inclined. I'll get around to doing that later. If there's an event website, you can put it there. I like to show a bracket map on my brackets. In other words, underneath the line where the loser of 54 would go, it says underneath there, loser of 54. And for some reason, the coaches seem to like that when that's there. I want to separate teams, separate guys from the same team. That's definitely a yes. Sometimes I have pigtails. Hood River is notorious for having pigtails. So we will allow it to do that. Not using divisions. We do that at the state tournament and nowhere else. I'm going to be assigning matches to mats with track wrestling, so that one is a yes. Don't usually do this. Announcements, the referees like it when I put stuff like tie your shoes up there on the staging. So I use the announcements for that. And the last thing, I want the statisticians to add wrestlers to their roster, and I want them to also be able to delete. We're going to be using electronic bouts. All of my tournaments use electronic bouts because I just think it's easier. It's easier on me for sure. And the last thing on this screen is the mat assignment depth, and this tells you how many matches out you want to show up on your mat assignment display. So here I'm going to be displaying the match that's up, the one that's on deck, and the one after that. And the kids know to head, when they see their name come up there, they head out to the mat, and they know better than we do half the time to do that. So now all of my settings are good. Going to go ahead and check that off the to-do list. We can set deadlines at this point for the statisticians to enter their lineups. I've been doing this enough times now. Again, it's deadlines in your left menu. I've been doing this for long enough now that I usually give the coaches until the night before to do their lineups. 10 p.m. Central is 8 p.m. Pacific, which is good enough for me. I'm just going to go ahead and bump all of these to the 29th, to the night before, and make sure it's all saved. Some things you have to save as you go along, other things you don't, which is kind of strange, but hey, it's track wrestling. For this tournament, I'm going to be using 16-man brackets, pretty much the standard bracket that we always use. Again, you click on it, tells you where to find this stuff. Bracket types is, in fact, all over. You can get it from 3 separate places up here. You can get it from left menu or setup or bracketing, depending on what mood you're in at the moment. Well, I'll just use the bracketing one because why not? You see they have lots of different types of brackets that you can use. They've got everything from 4-man brackets, 4-man round robin, which is that crab pool you were asking me about, all the way up to 64-man brackets. And for Hood River, I use 16. We usually play 6. The OSAA one is the one that we use at state, which keeps the top guys on top and the bottom guys on the bottom. For this tournament, that's not really necessary, so I'm going to go ahead and use this one here. And if you want to see what the bracket looks like, you can always click on View Sample. And you can see, let's see, loser of 15 goes up here, loser of 13 goes there, and so on. And this is the one I normally use for a for a 16-man bracket. So I'm going to go ahead and add that one to my list of bracket types. Okay. Now, the next thing I need to do is put my teams in. And strangely enough, under left menu, you have teams. Under setup, you have teams. Under registration, teams. You've got some choices here. The word teams is everywhere. It's in all of the first 5 menus. You can see I don't have any entered yet, so I'm going to add a team. And I'll just do the first 5 or 6 so you get the general gist of it. First team, strangely enough, at this tournament is Hood River Valley. You give each team an abbreviation. Usually 4 letters is adequate. You don't have to enter a division. Just do it straight like such. And now, Hood River is on my list. Track Wrestling has looked through all of the Oregon teams and found this one and says, yeah, are these the ones you want? And if it's yes, you don't have to do anything. And if not, you can click on Get, and it will give you some other options for teams. I'm doing Cascade on Saturday. Cascade is notorious that Track Wrestling likes to try to assign them to Cascade Christian, which is not exactly the same school. But here, we're good. We're going to continue with what we've got. And I'll add a few more teams that I know are coming to this tournament as soon as I find them on the page here. I got Barlow, whoops. And I'll give them an abbreviation, and we'll add a couple more here. And you have to click Add Team before each one. Do I have both? Usually I have both Wilson and Wilsonville at this tournament, but this year Wilsonville isn't going to be there. And I've got one team from Washington as well, so I'll go ahead and put them in here. And you just change the state, strangely enough, right there on state. And it gave me the wrong one. This is not the Columbia that's coming. And it's entirely possible that the one that is coming isn't on here. In fact, I see that they are not on here, so I'm just going to click on No Match. And we'll deal with it when I get a hold of the Columbia coach to get him to get his team on Track Wrestling. So that's entering the teams, and I've got 15, a bunch, oh my gosh, 20 more to add on here, so I'll get back to that later. The next thing we need are weight classes, and I'm going to just be using the standard high school weight classes. So under left menu, and setup, and registration, and bracketing, and operating, you've got weight classes. So I'm going to go ahead and add my weight classes. And if I want to be really, really lazy, which at this point I do, I'm just going to import those weight classes from last year's tournament, because lazy. So here's last year's Elks Invitational. I want to import the weight classes. I understand, blah, blah, blah. No, really, seriously, do you want to do this? Yes, yes, I do. Might take a while or not. And now, by cheating, and by the way, if you want to get all of this stuff off of this tournament that I'm doing right now, all you have to do is go left menu, importing, and you can import the weight classes, the brackets, the rounds, all of that stuff, seating criteria, mats, mat assignment display thing. There's a bunch of things that you can copy straight from me onto your own tournament if you're so inclined. There's a little lag, isn't there? Now when I look at my weight classes, by the way, I've got them all. 106 through 285, they're all there. You don't have to fill your weight classes with unknowns. That's something strange that track does. I've never done it, and it's worked out fine. The next thing on the list, and I've done my importing now. By the way, things to do right away is make sure you have a printer. And make sure you contact the school to find out about how you're going to be on the internet. The worst thing that happens at a tournament, and I noticed that Debbie was on here. We lost our internet at North Bend a couple of years ago. It just completely crapped out. and I had a major league panic attack for about 45 minutes. So make sure you know about your internet and your printers. Seating criteria is the next thing on the list. Again, from the left or setup menu. And here it is right here, seating criteria. Track wrestling will always default these three things here. Have they had a match? What is their winning percentage? And what is their season record? Now, if the coaches are doing their job and they're keeping the records updated, this will import automatically when the coach enters the wrestler. I like to add a couple more to this. I'll add a criteria. I'm going to create my own. And this is a tournament place. And the name of the tournament would be OSAA State 2015. What? Oops. The lowest place, did we place 1 through 6 last year, Brad, or 1 through 8? I don't remember.
What classification was that, drummer?
Let's assume 6A.
We placed 6.
Okay. So the lowest place they could have gotten was 6th place. And now it is down here. So notice, by the way, that track wrestling thinks their stuff is more important than a state placer. I can use the move button, click on move, and now I can make that the new slot for that. I would like that to be my number 1 criteria. And now it is. Similarly, I usually add regionals to this as well. Add the year. And again, most regionals placed 6. And I want that to be my 2nd criteria. And now I've got some stuff, and I'll show you how this works in just a minute with when the wrestlers are all entered. Okay. The next thing down the list is setting up the team scoring. So I'll go setup and scoring. Check the advancement points. You can see you advance two advancement points in the championship round and 1 in the consolation, and no advancement for placement matches. And then this is if the wrestler has a bye in the first round, you give them their advancement point after they win their next match. That's just basic standard wrestling tournament scoring there. As long as you don't mess with anything on this screen, it works out fine. Somehow, the very first tournament I did on track, I accidentally was giving everybody 2 activity points for a bye. And I don't know why it was doing that. Apparently at some point I came into this screen, looked around a little bit, and changed this to a 2, and didn't change it back. But everything else here is as it should be. So I would recommend not messing with this screen much. Okay, for rounds. This is pretty standard for a 16-man bracket tournament. You do your first round of championship, then your quarters and first round of consolation together, your second consolation, and so on down. Again, pretty standard operating procedures in order to get your tournament over and you home at a sensible hour. So again, I would recommend not futzing around with this. We need team logins at this point. So when I click on that, it tells me where to go to do that. Users, statisticians in the left or setup menu. So we'll go ahead and do that. Right now, none of the teams have a coach added. If I pull this menu down and say add team statistician, Track Wrestling telling me, are you really? Are you sure? Yeah, fine, do it. And for some reason this year, I'm getting all of the athletic directors as well as the head coaches on my statistician list. My experience with athletic directors is that they don't like getting emails that they think they have to deal with. So I'm going to get all of these guys off of my statistician list. I checked on each one I'd like to get rid of, and I'm going to delete them. Yes, seriously. Whoops. And now it will just go to the head coaches. And when I get the rest of my teams in there, I'll have to go back and do that again. That's done. As far as number schemes are concerned, there's a video on it. But we have, again, set up, bracketing, and operating menu for number schemes. I just kind of use the default numbering. You would click on Add Scheme. We just call it default. All weights, all rounds, start at 1, and skip the buys. And now it will number the bouts automatically in the order that we put the rounds in. And it'll just follow it, each weight class from about 1 to about 31, depending on the buys and stuff. So this simple default number scheme works perfect every time I use. The only time I don't use this is at state when I have to have 5 different number schemes. Okay, we're going, at least at this tournament, I'm going to be using electronic bout scoring. So what I need to do is I need to add a worker account at this time. And then we'll go through the rest of it here in just a second. So the first thing I need is a worker. So left menu, users, workers. And I usually give my workers exciting names. Worker, username worker, password, I don't know. I'll make something up and then change it later. I just need a worker account in order to show you the next bit here. All right. So I have a worker account. I've already selected use mats and mat assignment depth in my settings. And now I'm going to list the mats I'm going to use in my tournament. Setup, mats. I want to be playing Fallout 4. And then I give my mats really exciting names. Mat 1, Mat 2, and Hood River uses 5 for varsity. And there are my mats. So I've got them all set up. What else have I missed here? Okay, and now mat assignment scheme. Okay, I like the way they have this note here. You can think of mat assignment schemes as stacks of bout sheets, and you're specifying which bouts go in each stack. So you click on assignment schemes, and for the first 3 rounds of my tournament, I just send the kids to the first available mat. So I'm going to call my scheme first 3 rounds for all the weights. And if you hold down the shift key while you're clicking, you can select more than one. So for those 3 rounds, I'm just going to send the kids to the first available mat. And that'll take care of my first 3 rounds. When we get to the semifinals, they like to have those on like mats 1 and 2, and the third wrestleback on mats 4 and 5. And at this point, I need to explain the difference between a bout number and a bout ID. Remember a little bit ago, we put this 16, this is our bracket type that we're using for this tournament. Each one of the bouts in this bracket type is assigned what's called a bout ID. So the first 8 matches are 1 through 8, 9, 11, 13, 15 are the quarterfinals, and so on. Well, my semifinals are bout IDs 17 and 20. And I need to write down that the other 2 are 23 and 24 so I don't forget and have to come back to this again. So now when I go ahead and do my mats and I do my semis assignment scheme, it's all of the weight. This is the round, but I only want match IDs 17 and 20 because those are my semifinals. And then my consolation quarterfinals are that same round, but they are match IDs 23 and 24. So when I go to do this with the mat assignment, and I'll show you again how that works in a minute here, I can assign certain matches to 2 mats and certain other matches to another 2 mats. And this is how I do that. And then I might as well just go ahead and finish this up. My consolation semifinals are, and that round is, that's this one. And then I do a separate assignment scheme for 5th, for 3rd, and for 1st, because I usually at my tournaments those end up being on different mats. And of course I've forgotten the match IDs. I'm going to assume that 5th was 27, 3rd was 28. And 1st was 29. I don't remember if that's actually what it was or not, but that's my story, and I'm sticking to it for now. So now when I'm running my tournament, which I'll show you guys in a little bit, I can assign different types of matches to different mats as needed. Let me make sure I haven't missed anything on here. Yep, that's all the mat stuff. All right, since I'm going to be having this tournament scored on by laptops or iPads or some such thing, I need to make sure that these computers are sent the proper period lengths. There's actually a typo on this help thing here. It says bout types, and it should say bout text. Go to my bracket types. I do advanced settings, and I click on bout text, and now I can type in my period length, and everything is in seconds. So if I want 3 2-minute periods, I've got it. And I'm going to be lazy and put Control V to work here. Now for my consolation, I want those to be 1-minute first periods. So I go 60, 120, 120, like such. And now when the match shows up on the electronic score thing for the kid or whoever's working your table, it'll automatically give them the correct amount of time for the first period. And this is one of those weird ones that has a save button on it. Not all of them do. So at this point, we've pretty much gone through our entire to-do list right up until the point where it says copy to testing. To do this and to let you fart around with your tournament in the testing site, which is a different site from the actual track wrestling itself, it says, well, you can again watch a video, or we can go to the importing from the setup menu. Importing. And we're going to copy, it says to click here to copy the current state of your tournament over to the testing site. This takes about 30 seconds usually. At this point, if you've got any questions, feel free to type them up on the chat. I know I'm going a million miles an hour. And so if there are any questions at this point, I'll certainly take them. All right, that was faster than I was expecting it to be. And now I've got this tournament in the, I don't know why it keeps going to that. Oh. All right, and now I can mess around in this tournament and do whatever I would like to with the testing site. So I got last year's Cascade tournament entered on the testing site already, and I figured I would use this to go through what I do right before the tournament and while it's running and show you how a few things work. Some of this is on the to-do list and some of it isn't. The week of the event, mostly it's yelling at coaches. I'm good at that, so I get on the phone and I call Crook County and I say, why are you the only one that's entered your guys so far? Usually by Friday, you've got everybody, though. So during the week, basically you're just watching to make sure that people are being entered and dinkering around with the tournament on the testing site to try some of this stuff out that I'm showing you. These teams, you can see here by the count that these guys we have some guys entered at this point. For some reason, Cascade and Dallas both have 18 guys entered, which is interesting when you're only supposed to be allowed one per. But if I go to one of my weight classes, at this point, what I want to do is start seeding the tournament and making the brackets. And you do that in this right here. This is a weird one in that it's only found under the bracketing menu, is this thing called Seed Build Brackets. Yes, all invalid entries are gone, thank you. So here I've got 106. And I've got all of my guys here, all apparently 8 of them. Yep, I've got 8 guys here. So technically I should be using an 8-man bracket, but being the lazy guy that I am, I'm going to go ahead and put them into a 16 for now. Some of the coaches have entered some seating information, namely this one is the one guy I have seated. So I'm thinking maybe I should make this guy the top seed because I literally have nothing else to go on. So I can use these arrows to move these guys around depending on what sort of seating information I got from them. Now, there's my number 1 guy. I would like the rest of these guys to just sort of go in wherever. So I'm going to seed through seed 1. And normally this will say build bracket because this is a tournament that's already done and I basically got rid of all the matches. I need to rebuild it. Yes, I know, all the unknowns will be gone. And it takes about that long to make your bracket. I would like to see it, so I'll click on bracket and view it. And there's my bracket. As you can see, I put a sporty logo here. I've stolen straight from the OSAA webpage. And you can see my number one guy is seated number one. And if you want to see how to do this, you can actually copy my, bracket formatting. You can just import it straight from this tournament or any of the tournaments that I do. And you can see that the brackets are all set up. They're listed by match ID number at the moment. I haven't actually numbered my tournament yet. The 106 is done. Can go to the next one. Here under my seating information, I have a couple of guys who were fifth at regionals last year and a bunch of other guys who pretty much have nothing for me to go on. So maybe I'll just seed the first two and to make Crook count. Nope, I've got Dallas people in the room. I will leave the Dallas kid as number one. I'm going to seed the first two and build my bracket. And it takes about that long. And when you look at your bracket, there you go. You're all set up and ready to roll. You actually have one match in the first round here. Sorry, I'm reading what's going on in the lower corner there. I missed that, Brad. What did it say?
Jeff, I thought it might be a good idea, and I know you've covered this and you can't get out of this to get back, but maybe to talk about how those teams that were invited to the tournament actually submitted those entries. You know, that whole component, not necessarily, you know, just kind of explain how that part of it works. How did those entries get populated on your side, Drummer, is what I'm asking you.
Strangely enough, I have a document here. This is the one with all the fancy Microsoft Paint stuff on it. So this is what I sent out to the coaches for the Cascade tournament this Saturday. And this is all based on Cottage Grove's schedule page. So I told Kyle Temple to go ahead and go on to his, type in his XR code and whatever that was. And next to the Burleson tournament, there's this little green envelope here. And if you click on that, it'll actually pull up a window that lets you enter your guys. It'll tell you about the deadline, have your guys in at the right time. And you can click on this, what says here, right here. And in fact, I'll do that for Cottage Grove. Give me just a moment here.
Hey, Jeff, while you're doing that real quickly, does the envelope, Jeff, automatically appear next to the event, or is that a pre-registration function that you set up when you're structuring the tournament itself?
Yeah. When I put in the settings to allow the statisticians to enter, I'm going to check Barlow right now because they're one of the teams I just put in that Hood River tournament. If you look on their schedule, now this is here. This probably wasn't there before I put that tournament in. So if I'm Coach Head, and I'm going to be the Barlow coach here for just a moment, I'm going to go ahead and accept that tournament, make it a varsity tournament, and now if I click on this little green envelope here, it tells you have until blah, blah, blah. And now all the times are central. Because aren't these guys in Wisconsin, if I remember right?
That's correct.
The guys who wrote the site are in Wisconsin, and they don't seem to understand that there are other time zones other than central. But anyhow, when we proceed, if I click here where it says click here, I get a list of all of my guys. And if I want, say, this wrestler to wrestle 138 for the tournament, I click on him and make him 138. You have to answer this question or Track Wrestling gets snippy with you. And then now he's successfully in the tournament. You can take a look at your wrestlers, and there they all are. I don't really want him in the tournament right at the moment because I'm not actually the Barlow coach, so I'm going to go ahead and delete him out of there. But I can change his name. I can change his weight class here. If his record's really 0-20, I can make it 0-20, whatever I need to do. So there he's gone. And then all the coaches will be able to do this from their schedule page. Again, if I choose a different team that's in that tournament, I know, strangely enough, Hood River is in that tournament. It should be the same thing. Yep, there it is right there. So what he's going to have to do, he's going to have to trash this one and then use this for his stats. So he just clicks on that and everything shows right up. So that's how those names get populated onto that, onto this. That's where all these guys magically appeared from. So at this weight class, I'm going to seed the first two. I think I already did this one, actually. Yep. And then I can just go through and do the rest. Believe it or not, it takes me about 10 minutes before our tournament to get all the brackets drawn up. It really doesn't take very long. Here I'm going to want to seed 5 guys. That's a pretty good weight class. And that bracket is done now. And I just kind of look over it real fast to make sure everything is all pretty like, and it seems fine to me. And then you just kind of go through. No stress, no muss, no fuss, just go through and, sorry, I just got invaded by a kitten, and build your brackets. If you see some funny typing on the screen, all of a sudden it's the cat. I'm going to seed 3 there. And this is literally how long it takes me before the average tournament to get the brackets done. At some point, I'm going to get bored with these pop-up screens that keep coming up and just say, all right, I've had enough. Yeah, don't make any more dialogues. I'm tired of them. Actually, maybe I do need the dialogues. And you can go through and rebuild. I'm going to check that one. Okay. So don't do what I just did. That was a bad idea. Telling it not to give you the dialogues anymore, because as you can see, it's actually stopped rebuilding the brackets. So I'm going to go back and do the ones that didn't get done. Oh, great. So anyhow, you have the general idea. Go on, kitten. So once you have your brackets all built, the next thing you want to do before you start your tournament is give each bout a bout number. Now, we went through earlier and set up our numbering scheme. Well, at this point, we actually want to use it. So I am going to apply the scheme. I honestly don't know what this does. I just click on continue and I'm happy. So now all of the bouts, assuming that we're good here, the bouts should all be numbered. And, okay. Why is this not working? Oh, there we go. And it applies the number scheme. And now when I look at my brackets, none of the buys are numbered on this one. Only the bouts are numbered. If I look at like another bracket, say 160 or